Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we will be recapping The Summer I Turned Pretty Season 1, Episode 3, entitled Summer Nights. If you guys are new here, I would love for you to like and subscribe to the channel. We are recapping the entire series of The Summer I Turned Pretty, starting back with Season 1. For those who need a refresher or are new to the series, I have 2 prior videos up, and we are going to continue today with Episode 3. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. The episode starts off with Belly in her narration. Her mom is carrying a stack of pancakes, a Mickey Mouse stack of pancakes. She does this for her every year, and Belly is talking about how every year her birthday is the same. She always does it at the house and cousins. She always has it at the house and cousins. She's surrounded by the same people, and they all get her gifts. And right now she's going down memory lane, just showing, what this normally looks like in some of the earliest memories that she has. She makes sure she let the viewer know this is the day that the boys have to include her in everything. This is her favorite day of the year. Conrad goes and grabs the syrup and he draws an infinity. She's like, what's that? She looks over at him, and mind you, they are younger at this point. This may have been like her 10th birthday. I don't know. I wasn't even paying attention. But she looks at it and she's like, what's that? And he's like, it's an infinity symbol. He's like, I learned about it in math class. You know how numbers, they just keep getting bigger. You get 100, 1,000, a million. It's infinite. It's boundless. And Belly's like, I don't get it. And he says, imagine it's a racetrack. You could drive endlessly around those curves and never stop. There's no start, there's no end. It goes on forever, and that's infinity. So cute, because she's got on her little glasses, and he's just looking at her all endearing, and she's looking at him just so happy and smitten, But again, they're kids, but it's just really cute. It's a cute little memory. And then it pans on over to Belly. Looking in the mirror, it is now her 16th birthday, sweet 16. She's looking at this dress that she's getting ready to wear. The dress isn't my favorite. I don't mind the style, but the pattern leaves a little something to be desired, but that's just my personal taste. Nevertheless, she looks cute. It's definitely an upgrade from what she had on in the last episode, so I'm not going to go in on her too bad. So she comes on down the steps. Of course, she's excited, but she already knows what's waiting because, again, she has done this every year since she can remember. Comes down, says good morning. Everyone gives her a hug and wishes her happy birthday. First Susanna, and then Jeremiah, then smartass Steven. Then, of course, her mom, and then picking up where they were last episode. That would have been last night in this show. So, of course, Conrad hasn't said a word. And Belly just kind of looks at them. They're not seeing it for each other today. Says, she's got her pancakes ready. And she's like, actually, I'm not hungry. And she's like, oh, so here's Susanna. Well, let's open gifts. So Belly is all smiles, and Conrad is just like eating his cereal, trying to avoid eye contact. She's looking right at him, though. It's so funny. So she goes down and proceeds to start opening her gifts. So Belly's mom got her a book, and she seemed underwhelmed. And she tells her to turn to the bookmark page. Looks at Susanna. She's like, it's your favorite. For whatever we lose, like a you or a me, it's always ourselves we find in the sea. So then Susanna gives her gift, and she tells her to open it up, and it is her pearls. So Susanna tells Belly that her mom gave her those pearls for her sweet 16. So of course she's passing them down. And at this time, Susanna is putting them around Belly's neck, and Conrad has a gift. We can see it in his hand, and he like ever so smoothly just casually puts it in his pocket, tucks it away like he didn't get anything. That's what I already knew was coming, because it was like, why would he tuck it away? It was like he was ashamed of his gift versus what the mom gave. It's like he couldn't top that. That's the vibe that I got immediately. So Jeremiah goes next, and he gave Belly a good luck charm, and she was happy about that. Steven gets her a sweatshirt that says Princeton, which Belly has always wanted, a college sweatshirt, so she's excited about that. And of course, that's where he's going. She's talking about, I can't believe you actually spent money on me. He says, relax, I just didn't want you stealing mine next year when I get in. So now it's Conrad's turn, and Susanna says, Conrad, you want to hand Belly your gift? Alan, she's got a little smirk on her face. Like, yeah, where's my gift? Like, she's good and ready for her gift especially because they had that little back and forth last night, but it's like unheard of for her not to have a gift from them. She doesn't expect anything less. It's always been this way. Everybody is looking at Conrad just, hopeful, smiling, especially Belly. He just so awkwardly says, I'm sorry, I forgot. And you could just see the disappointment in Belly's face. It actually doesn't read as disappointment. It looks like shock, but I know disappointment when I see it, okay? She's disappointed, but she didn't show it. Not at all. It doesn't read it on her face, but again, you just have to know that she's disappointed in that, and she's heartbroken by it, right? It's a small thing. It's really not. It's so out of character for Conrad. again, because it just seems like this has never been the case up until this point. So everything this year apparently with Conrad just seems off. And so Belly just casually like says, hey, okay, it's cool. It's not a big deal anyway. Don't worry about it. Because she wasn't really expecting anything. Sure you weren't. Susanna is not happy about that. You could tell by the look she gave. And he's sitting there looking stiff and awkward. And it's just like, now Conrad, why? Because I know you got a gift in your pocket, honey. What's going on, baby? So he says he has to go. He has to go meet up with Cleveland Castillo. He got to show him some knots today. And he tells Belly happy birthday before he heads out. Jeremiah comes in with the save, change the subject, and he says, we take my car and practice driving. We got some time before we need to pick up Taylor from the bus station. And she's like, sure. At this time, her eyes are glossy. And she was almost ready to cry. She wasn't trying to. She wasn't really showing it, but you can see it. And he definitely did come in for the save. So I really did appreciate that from Jeremiah at this time because, you know, that's his best friend. He was trying to cheer her up. And, of course, he don't want her crying on her birthday. So, yeah, they head out for a drive. While they're out driving, you know, it's just Jeremiah and Belly, and he's talking to her, and he's like, hey, you're excited? You know, that Taylor's coming? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, are you sure? Because she definitely sounds hesitant. And she's just like, oh, well, you know, Taylor, you know, she's kind of just like a hurricane. She kind of just feels like a supporting character anytime she's around, which is crazy. That's how she feels at this moment. He just reassures her, and he says, but it's your birthday, and you're the main character today. She says, yeah, thanks, Jer. Then she swerves. He's like, we're gonna need a part 2 of this driving lesson, okay? Part 3 and part 4. So then they head on over to Cleveland Castillo and Conrad, and he's just teaching him about the whole tying knots thing. So Cleveland Castillo asked Conrad if he could come with him or meet him down at this like interview that he has about the book or what he has coming up on Good Morning Massachusetts, I think he said. And he asked Conrad to come down, and Conrad said that he would. It was this afternoon. He said he thought he would really be helpful to have someone around who actually knows what they're talking about. And Conrad, you know, obliged. He said he'll be there. He'd be happy to. So in the next scene, Shayla and Steven are out to dinner or lunch, and she's talking to him about this designer that just got out of school. You know, she just graduated, and now, you know, she's really blowing up. And I'm guessing that the lady is doing her dress, and she's like, hey, she's got some midwear as well that I think will go really good with my deb ball gown, because, you know, she has already asked him, and he said he would go accompany her to this. Now, mind you, Shayla comes from money and Steven does not. Okay, Steven has to work for every penny that he's going to be spending. So yeah, she shows him these expensive designs, right? If my eyes don't deceive me, that price said $4,000. You could just see the look on Steven's face. I'm gonna make sure I try to get a good clip of this because girl, he's like, oh yeah, no, those look great. And the look of disappointment on her face when she saw his like face drop, it's like, girl, did you not know that he wasn't rich? Oh, bless her heart. She's like, we totally don't have to coordinate. Girl, do you think that's the issue? You don't think it's the price? Oh my goodness. Really, really want to. And he's like, honestly, you're like the best dressed girl in Cousins. She's like, well, it's not hard to be. He says, I just really want to look good next to you. I will give it to Steven. He always tried to be pretty transparent for the most part. He tried with this in this relationship with her, but I think he had this notion that she was always better than he could ever be, which was not a good mind state to have as a man. He didn't have very much self-esteem. You are who you are. You don't have the money that she has. You just have to be upfront and honest about that. And he had a problem with doing that. It's like it made him feel like less of a man. So anyway, in the next scene, we see Jeremiah and Belly picking up Taylor off the bus. She comes off the bus with a whole bunch of balloons for Belly and her birthday. She gives her a hug and she addresses her, and she addresses Jeremiah. Of course, she calls him Jeremy. And she's like, this outfit is snatched. Isn't Belly looking like a snack? So she definitely bigs her up. Like, she never talks down on Belly or anything. There's no reason for Belly to feel inferior, but she does for some reason. Jeremiah, of course, offers to get her back. So she's like, such a gentleman, Jeremy. Belly looks at Taylor. She says, it's Jeremiah, not Jeremy. I like Jeremy better. Still looking at Jeremiah in his eyes, all dreamy. Like, she cracks me up. Should we head home? And she's like, actually, can we make a stop first? And they stop and get like a banana split. So while they're eating their banana split, she's like, okay, open your present. So she gets her a present out. She gives Belly a present. It's a itsy bitsy teeny weeny purple solid color bikini. It's a little bit of an awkward moment. She wants to like it, but then she kind of looks over at Jeremiah and he's like, Belly would never wear that. And she's like, I really like it. Of course, it's not really Belly's taste. We all know this. It's definitely more Taylor's taste, but you know, Taylor wants her to put herself out there more and, you know, tap into her sexy or whatever. Yeah, it just is what it is. That's the kind of friend that she is. That's her taste, whatever. Like, so what's the plan for the night? Where's the party? And Belly's like, Susanna always plans this big lobster dinner. Taylor's like, boring. No, it's your 16th birthday. We have to go out. Oh my God, I've had friends like this. Belly goes on and on about it. She's like, and she's had the idea to make it a midsummer theme. So we've got like flower crowns and everything. She definitely is giving young vibes, young-minded vibes, which is fine. She's only 16, but I think Taylor is wanting her to have a more grown-up experience. Not necessarily adult-like, but just do things that teens do, you know? And so she proceeds to say, you think you should be spending time with people your own age? She's like, I am. You're here. Jeremiah, am I visible? I guess Steven. She says real snarky like. And then Belly says, and Cam's coming too. And she's like, yay. I'm so excited to finally meet the guy that made you take your eyes off of you know who. She's like, Taylor, what? Jeremiah is just kind of there, just like, pause, nothing to say. There's really nothing to say because everybody knows. So he's like, I got an idea. We can go to Nicole's. She's having a party tonight. Then Taylor's like, who's Nicole? She's like, it's my big sister for the dead ball. Super nice and sweet. She's so cool and fun. And here goes Taylor. Oh, I'm like melting right now. I will say she definitely has main character energy. So she's a jealous type of friend. She did not want her with these other girls. You already get that vibe that that's the type of friend that she is. She's used to having Belly to herself. So the thought of her being around some other girls and finding some new friends and possibly ditching her, which was never going to happen. That's clearly how she feels. She feels intimidated by it. And yeah, that's the energy she's giving off at this moment. And so she's like, let's change the subject. Basically, I want to change in my bikini and jump in the pool. Jeremiah's excited. He's like, sure. Belly's looking at him like, really? Like, there she goes. And they head on back. Back at the house, they're all at the pool. And Taylor and Belly are in their own little corner. And then Steven and Jeremiah are in their own little corner. And Taylor is telling Belly, like, look, Conrad is going to lose his mind when he sees you in his bikini. And she's like, I don't think so. I honestly think he couldn't care less. Come on, Belly. No, seriously, he didn't even give me a present this year. What? Yeah, he claimed he forgot. Taylor, what a little bitch. So Taylor comes up with the bright idea to play chicken. Obviously, Jeremiah gets Belly and Taylor is with Steven. From the minute she gets up there, Taylor and Steven are going at it. Am I sliding off your shoulders? And he's like, maybe if your legs weren't so slippery. They're literally arguing back and forth like an old married couple. And it's so funny. On the first round, Belly takes down Taylor while they're playing chicken. As she turns around while they're celebrating, you hear Nicole saying, hey, happy birthday, Belly. She walks in with Conrad, right? Conrad looks at Belly, but he's also like looking over uncomfortably at Nicole. Taylor introduces herself. She says she's just visiting for the weekend. Belly is like, you guys want to play a real game? And they're like, yeah. So now they're going to play volleyball. Conrad and Nicole are just sitting on the sidelines, just watching them while they play the game. It was a cute little scene, especially because Taylor and Belly are actual volleyball athletes. They were playing back and forth and everything was cool. And then Taylor spikes the ball and hits Nicole square in the side of her head. And it's just so funny. She was just randomly like, ow. Taylor was still smiling, right? She definitely didn't intentionally hit her. But Belly dramatically is just like, Taylor. And she's like, what? It was an accident. She's like, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? And she's like, I'm fine. So Conrad's like, let's go inside. I'll get you some ice. So sorry again, Nicole. Feel better, okay? And then Taylor says, come on, Belly. Conrad can take care of Nicole. And he like turns back and looks at her in her face. He said, let's go inside and look in the mirror some more. Which means now knows that Belly told her that. That happened between them. How would she know if Belly hadn't told her? So now he knows that she talks about him, right? As if he probably didn't already know. And he's like, yeah, have fun with that. They're upstairs in Conrad's room, him and Nicole, that is. He's like, does it hurt? And she's like, Conrad already told you I'm fine. Like, I know, I just, thank you for taking care of me. He says anytime. Then she tries to quickly go in for the kiss, right? And he immediately gets a message on his phone. He looks over at it and realizes it's Cleveland Castillo, which, yes, he's supposed to be there with him this afternoon. So he got to go. Fuck, I got to get out of here. I'm so sorry. And he literally leaves that girl in his room on his bed. And she's just like, what the? He didn't even say bye, y'all. He was out of there. She looks so defeated. She definitely wanted something to happen and nothing is. It cuts to the bookstore and we see Susanna and Laurel walking past and they see that Cleveland Castillo is in there, obviously, for his little press about the book. And he's just looking around just frantically looking to see where Conrad is. And of course, he's not there. He doesn't make it in time. Laurel's like, am I crazy or does Cleveland Castillo look good? He said, nah, just the celibacy talking. He's perfect sex after divorce material. And then you say you devoured his book in like a day. She's like, yeah, but I read the essay in the New Yorker about his ex. He's gay. Does that make a difference? She said, well, of course not. Well, what's the harm in a little summer fling? I like Susanna for that. Okay, y'all have y'all fun. She says, I'd rather be here with you. Darling, you already are. Live a little. And then here comes Conrad. In the next scene, Taylor and Belly are walking down on the beach, and Taylor says to Belly she doesn't know about her this summer. She's like, you're into new clothes, you got new friends, you got a boyfriend. And Belly is like, what do you mean? She said, I told you this summer would be different. And Taylor is like, I know, but I'm kind of freaked out by your glow up. And she's just like, I mean, you're the one always telling me, Belly, do different things. Don't be afraid of change. And she's like, I know. Just promise me one thing. Promise me we'll always be best friends. And she's like, we'll always be best friends. That's never going to change. BFFs forever. So back at the house, we got Laurel in the kitchen with Susanna. And they're, whipping up that big dinner that Belly was talking about earlier for her birthday. They got the crabs out. Looks like Laurel is baking a cake. And they're talking. Laurel says, what's up with Conrad, forgetting Belly's birthday? And she's like, I don't know. He's been off since April. And Laurel's like, when he and his girlfriend broke up? And she's like, yeah, he won't talk to me about it. I just want to make sure he's okay. Laurel says, remember when he broke his arm and didn't tell anyone because he didn't want to be a bother? And Susanna says, classic Connie. Do you mind talking to him? Y'all already know what I'm going to say. That says a lot. The fact that he would suffer in pain and not tell anyone. Yeah. So, I mean, that kind of just gives it away. There's really nothing else I need to say about that. That's clear as day. So I'm not really sure why his mom doesn't seem to catch on to the fact that he obviously knows what's going on with this situation. Anyway, she asked Laurel if she wouldn't mind going out to talk to him because she's always been close with him and been able to do so. Always been able to make him open up. And Laurel's like, I'm on it. So she heads out and she goes and talks with him. So Laurel's like, I just wanted to check in with you. And he's like, okay. And she's like, so how have you been? And he's like, fine. We used to talk. And he's like, we still talk. Like, barely. You're still my special guy. You're the first baby. And you can talk to me about anything. He says, thank you. And he seems sincerely grateful. He tells him he doesn't have to hold everything in all the time and he doesn't have to always be strong. He says, I know, but he kind of hesitates before he does. And he almost looks as if he's trembling to me. Like he could just break down at any moment. I don't know. It's just what it seemed like to me. And it's crazy to me that nobody seemed to understand it, what he was going through, or that he was clearly hurting in a different way. That may have warranted like some therapy or something. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I feel like they were looking at him, but they weren't seeing him. Anyway, it's funny because he was literally getting ready to open up to her. Had she just been quiet and just allowed him to do it? And he was just like, it's just, and she was like, it's funny how when I was your age, she just literally cuts him off. And at that point, it's gone. Says, and she says, it's been a while since I was your age, but I still remember what it's like to have my heart broken. And you see, you can see the like disappointment kind of on Conrad's face. Like, oh, that's what this is? Like, really? You could tell, like, no, you're literally barking up the wrong tree. Definitely barking up the wrong tree. That's not it. She said, losing your first love, it hurts. It takes time to get over that. So yeah, that ain't it, y'all. That ain't it. So immediately Conrad going back into protective mode and not about to release anything because he thought he felt seen and now he knows he doesn't. And he's like, yeah. Oh yeah, Aubrey. Oh yeah, that really hurt. It was brutal. So in this next scene, they're at the dinner table. They're having that dinner that Belly talked about, her birthday dinner. And Kim is there as well as Taylor. So they're all sitting around the table and getting ready to eat and everything. While they're at the table, this whole little conversation spews. Laurel starts off by telling Kim she knows he doesn't eat meat and there's a dish that she makes that he can partake in. And Jeremiah proceeds to ask him, you know, why don't you eat meat? And he says the meat industry is one of the main contributors to global warming. So it's just a personal choice. But he doesn't fault anyone else who does eat meat. It's just his choice not to. And so he then proceeds to press the issue and say, actually, you know, Belly eats meat. And so you let her kiss you with those lips. And Belly is like, guys, he's like, actually, I don't judge other people for their personal choices. It's fine. I don't mind. It's just me. I don't do it. Right. So the issue should be deaded. It's getting very annoying because he presses it even more. So you don't mind if she, like, you know, eats a dead animal and then comes over and kisses you. Like, enough already. It's very annoying. Anyway, Belly kind of kicks him under the table and he says, no, I don't mind at all. And actually, to prove it, he goes in and kisses her. And good for her. Laurel kind of looks and she's like, Conrad looks uncomfortable. Then Jeremiah and Steven, of course, got to be bro-like and they pretend to throw up. Belly honestly seems a little uncomfortable with the whole scenario. So yeah, she seems a little awkward about it. I don't think Belly really likes being the center of attention in that way. So yeah. And then, you know, Laurel's like, all right, Belly can kiss. But that's it. No, not funny. So then Steven has to bust her out and he's like, yeah, I just don't understand why anyone would want to kiss someone who once shat in the bathtub. And she was like, I was like 2. He was like more like 6. So there's this whole little banter going back and forth. Susanna's like, I remember that. And then Taylor comes in for the save. That's why I like Taylor for real, y'all, because she do be having her back for real. She's like, well, I remember when you, and she's talking to Conrad and Jeremiah, dared Steven to pee in the fireplace. You stunk up the entire house last summer. And everybody starts laughing. And he's embarrassed, as he should be. Susanna's like, I blame the neighbor's cat for that. He said we were drunk. Belly's like off of half a White Claw. So she got her lick back. And of course, that was because of Taylor. See how Taylor comes in for the save? I do think Taylor is a good friend, honestly, y'all. She has her things about her, but that's just her personality. I mean, but I think she's always been very loyal to Belly, you know, never wants her to be the butt of a joke, for sure. So at that point, you know, Belly looks over at Taylor and you could tell she was grateful she was there. She smiles at her. She's like, you know, I think we should go to Nicole's party tonight. And Taylor's like, yes. The camera pans over to Conrad. He's just kind of in deep thought. We don't know what he's thinking about, of course. It pans over to the girls. They are now up in Belly's room getting dressed and ready for the party. So Taylor is helping Belly put on her mascara. And she's like, tonight's going to be so much fun. And Belly's like, yeah, I just hope I don't embarrass myself like I did the last time. She was like, you literally went to one party and it was one time. It's okay. You'll be fine. And she makes the best out of it again. She's like, don't worry about you embarrassing yourself. You know, you made people notice you. So Taylor sees those little like flower headband things that Susanna made for them for the little dinner. And she's like, we should wear these tonight. And she's like, well, Susanna just kind of made that for the theme or whatever. Wouldn't it be like weird if we wear them out? She's like, no, it's hot. And she puts it on her and she puts it on Belly. And she said, look at us. We're hot ass bitches. Yeah, I love Taylor because she just has a good attitude about things and things that Belly thinks twice about. She's like, no, let's do it. Let's own it. She's confident. You know what I'm saying? She owns whatever it is. So that's why I like Taylor. She's cool people. She means well. Everybody needs at least one friend like Taylor, you know, that goes to bat for you. And it's a good time, even if they annoy you sometime. You know what I mean? So they roll up to the party. They got Cam with them. And yeah, we in there. Belly's greeted by Nicole. And, you know, she's like, happy birthday. You look so nice. She compliments her on the little headband or whatever. And she like kind of ushers her in over to this little area where they have a cake for Belly. Just keep in mind, Cam goes over there with her, and it's a bunch of girls that are all a part of the debutante ball, so they're all in there. They're going to wish her a happy birthday and everything. It's a really nice setup. It was very nice of them to do. It's 2 cakes. One of the cakes has a 16 on it, so they did that for Belly. It was a really nice gesture. Meanwhile, Belly, Taylor drifts out. She goes to get her something to drink, so she hasn't seen this part. You could tell she feels out of place, but because, you know, she already told Belly she feels uncomfortable with the fact that she has new friends. So she's a little uncomfortable, but she isn't saying anything or making Belly feel any kind of way. But she does feel a way naturally because she's used to being her only friend. So she's a little intimidated. Belly's like, these cakes look amazing. Thank you so much. And she's like, okay, Belly, go ahead and make a wish. And then the camera pans in on Belly and she goes in, she closes her eyes, and she blows out the candle. Hey, Belly, where's Jeremiah? Is anyone thirsty? And the other girl says, you clearly. Meanwhile, Jeremiah is over there talking to a guy on the couch, flirting. They're giving make-out teas, so that's what's going on with that. The guy calls him a queer baiter. He's just an equal opportunity. And they start kissing. The girls proceed to start asking about Conrad, which makes Belly uncomfortable. Honestly, y'all, they only like to keep her around to ask about the boys. Belly doesn't notice it, but I do. Okay, these are little rich girls, a lot of them. At least Nicole is. And although it was a nice gesture, it was nothing for her to do what she did. All they do is question her about the boys anytime she's around. So, yeah, they got their own ulterior motives. I can't hate on Taylor for being suspect about them because they definitely do have motives. They are not genuinely trying to be Belly's friend. So, the camera pans over to Conrad. He's right in Belly's direct eye view, and she's looking at him. He's with a bunch of guys just sitting there, standing there, and they're drinking, and she's smiling. She looks over at him while he's drinking. He's taking a sip, and he looks over at her, and they lock eyes, and he gets uncomfortable, and he just like steps away from the guys, like, hey guys, I'll be back. Taylor pull up on Steven. He's upstairs, I think. No, he's just in a different area, and she's drinking, and he's actually on his phone looking at pictures of Shayla in her dress. I guess she sent him, and you know, Taylor sees it and she's like, ooh, fancy. Yeah, well, fancy isn't always better. Taylor says, I don't think Belly agrees. She's fully on board with the fancy girls. They're cool in theory, but Belly's never going to be on board with them. She's never going to feel comfortable with them. He says, look, you're like her number one, don't trip. Really makes Taylor feel good. She's like, this line isn't moving. You want to go upstairs and see if there's another bathroom? And he's like, yeah, sure. Now, this is what I will say that I think about this interaction. I see what's going on here. I will say, even though Steven was speaking to the relationship with Belly per se, because that's what Taylor needed to hear at that moment, I honestly think he was saying that about himself. Like, I do believe he likes Shayla, but also I feel like he likes the chase of Shayla. He likes the thought. She's like a trophy. He likes the thought of being with someone of her caliber. You know what I mean? In all actuality, especially knowing what I know and how this all plays out, looking back especially, I can see that he actually already had the feelings for Taylor. He just wasn't ready to show it. Wasn't ready to claim her. Wasn't ready for what people may think. You know what I mean? He wasn't sure of himself in that way yet. Like, he would much rather have been seen with a Shayla than a Taylor. You see what I mean? Which is not what Taylor deserved. But I'm just saying in general, he definitely was saying what he was saying, not only for Belly, but he was talking about himself when he said fancy isn't always better. Never past to Jeremiah. He's talking to the guy he made out with, and another girl. He's like, what are you guys doing after the party? He's not really paying attention. He looks over at Belly. She's over there laughing with Cam, and you know, he has the bright idea that he's going to sing them a song. Now that I'm looking back, at first I was like, is he trying to hate on them? I think at first that was the goal. Like, I think Jeremiah kind of was always trying to impress his feelings onto Belly, like throwing shade on this relationship. The first time was Conrad when they came to see her at the movie theater. Check out my last review if y'all haven't seen that. But the first time was at that first date, ruined that. That was Conrad's idea. I give you that. Jeremiah did participate, but that was definitely Conrad's mastermind plan, right? After that, Conrad fell back and he decided he was not going to interfere anymore, right? So then on this, I feel like at the table for dinner, that was Jeremiah. This right here is Jeremiah. But this didn't really go the way he wanted it to go. So Jeremiah decides that he gonna sing a song, right? And kind of bust her out. But Belly was not excited about this song. She didn't like this. She don't like I said before, I don't think she likes to be the center of attention in this way. She's a shy person. Pretty reserved to herself. She does not want this attention. And her and Kim were having a good time. So this was his way of almost like putting the attention back on him. I don't know if he was trying to do that or not, but he tried to take the attention away from her and Cam. Either way, it backfired because Cam really got into it, and then before you know it, Cam is up there singing with them. It was hilarious, y'all. This was a very funny scene, and it left Belly extremely awkward feeling. She was not prepared for him to jump up there and start singing with them. So in the end, I think those two ended up having a bond. Like Jeremiah kind of warmed up to Cam, and so he no longer was trying to like sabotage what they had going on. He was cool with it, but he was not gonna ever be cool with Conrad and Belly, and we'll get to that in other episodes that I'll be recapping, y'all. Just roll with me. But back to this. They decided to sing this song, and all the girls that love Jeremiah and Conrad, they are back up. Names that Mike he sings the first verse or the first few words, and then he hands the mic to Belly, and she's like, oh no, please stop. She really just nervously laughs, but you could tell Belly is uncomfortable. She tries to smile through it though. And then when Kim gets up and joins in, it was like too much awkwardness for her. And she was just like, oh my God. That's when I knew. I was like, oh my God. I don't think Belly really sees it for Cam like that. He's so corny. And it's fine. It's not that he has to be cool, quote unquote, but she does not like him like that. Okay, the constant staring at Conrad, the need to get out of this situation, this is just not her vibe. And I could just already tell after this, like, okay, yeah, she just doesn't see it for him like that. He's a cool guy, maybe a good friend, but no. Just no. Okay, maybe him and Jeremiah need to hook up the way it's looking. But anyway, she goes to find Taylor because it's like she realizes like, Dad, where's Taylor at? So she goes to look for Taylor. We know Taylor is somewhere with Steven the last we saw her. So while Belly is going up the steps, Cam literally starts singing the second verse. And I'm talking about he is feeling it, y'all. And mind you, Cam don't drink. So he completely sober like this. Girl, when I say he had a good time, him and Jeremiah and the girls, not really the girls, just him and Jeremiah. The girls are there for Jeremiah. But yeah, it was hilarious. And Belly gone. And he is doing his thing with Jeremiah. I swear, so funny. She goes up the stairs and she tries one room. She doesn't see Taylor in there, so she goes to another room, which is strange. It's just like, what would make you go in these rooms looking for Taylor? Like, what would make you even think that? Anyway, she goes in the second room and she sees that headband on the bed, and then she sees it. She sees Taylor and Steven making out, child, and oh my God, the world is coming to an end. Because how could you do this to me, right? She's like, oh my God. I'm sorry, y'all. Belly is just so freaking dramatic. Okay. So, Steven turns around and Taylor, they both have the shock look on their face. There's really nothing to say. Taylor's like, Belly, and Steven, oh my God, he just runs out the room. You're hooking up with my brother? I'm sorry, it just happened. What, you got bored? He's dating someone he really likes. He's saying he couldn't like somebody like me? Like, that's not what I'm saying, but this could get really messed up. He's taking her to the dead body. You could tell she kind of feels like now she's going to be stuck in the middle of it. And clearly she genuinely feels like Steven does not like Taylor. Like, that's literally what she feels like. She says, those girls are her friends. And Taylor just lets it all hang out. She says, look, I'm so sick of hearing about this dead ball. I don't even know who you are anymore. Why? Because I'm not just going along with everything that you want to do? Is that why you hooked up with my brother, so you can get back at me? She says, you act so innocent, Belly, like you're the victim. Victim? How do I? She says, I think you're the self-absorbed one. That's Taylor, y'all. How do you not know that I've had a crush on Steven for years, literally since we were kids? If you weren't so obsessed with Conrad, And she starts whispering, what is wrong with you? People can hear. Who cares? Taylor tells her, she says, there's more than one story happening here, but you seem to only care about the one where you're the main character. Ooh, Taylor, she ate that up. She ate that up. And she says, I can't do this right now. I gotta go. And she dips out and leaves Taylor there in a stranger's house. The next scene, we see Conrad and the guy that Jeremiah was hooking up with. They're out there playing beer pong with Cam and Jeremiah. Of course, you know, Cam doesn't drink. So Conrad just so casually asks Cam, hey Cam, have you started the waltz lessons yet? He's like, the dance teacher is a real sadist. And he says, who are you talking about? He said, the dance teacher for the ball. And he's like, oh, Belly hasn't really asked me yet. Oh, y'all, you see it? Do you see it? Yeah, Conrad was happy about that. Okay. Now out walks Belly and she's ready to go. She says, hey, and drunk ass Jeremiah, hey, Belly. If you actually see the look on Conrad's face, he wasn't happy with that, but he didn't say anything. And she looks at Cam, she clocks him like, I thought you didn't drink. He says, oh no, it's water. Baby, I tell you, she is looking for a reason to not have Cam no more. I promise you she is. I promise I'm not reaching y'all. She was not really feeling Cam. She likes him, but I don't think she wants to really be with him. You know what I mean? She don't feel the spark for Cam. No shade to Cam, y'all. I like Cam. He's cool. Can we leave like now? And he's like, yeah. Conrad's just looking. My thing is, so here are my little thoughts about this little section right here. Girl, what you mean, can we leave now? What about your friend? Y'all at a stranger's house, she at a place she's not familiar with. You're gonna leave because you're mad without her? Terrible ass friend to me. Like, we'll really fall out for that. Because how the fuck I'm supposed to get home? These is your peoples and your friends, your new friends. I don't know nobody here. So just because you mad at me, you don't care about how I get home? That was dead ass wrong. She was dead ass wrong for that. But that's it. That's all I got to say about that. To the next part. As she's walking down the steps to leave, Cam looks at Belly and he says, hey, can I ask you something? And she's like, yeah, what's up? And he says, are you into Jeremiah? You mean Conrad? Woo! There's nothing for me to say. Y'all see it, right? there's nothing for me to say. He's on her mind all the freaking time. She's obsessed. Okay, a blind man can see it. Oh no, Jeremiah. He feels like that based off of how Jeremiah is acting. Not based off of her interaction with him, because if he's really been paying attention to her interaction with him, it's nothing but friendly. She never really gave any impression that she was feeling Jeremiah in any type of romantic way. It's always been more of a friend vibe. But when it comes to Conrad, she goes blank when he's mentioned, and she lights up anytime someone says anything about him. Oh, but I think he felt that way based off of how Jeremiah was acting towards her, you know, with the singing, and when she came out of the party, he's all like, hey, you know, and she, you know, she's always trying to be receptive. She's always, you know, she's never like turned him away or anything or being mean to him. You know, that's her best friend. So she's always very kind to him, but it's kind of like, okay, he doing a lot, you know, and Cam clocks that, but he doesn't realize that's not her. That's not her doing. And he said, like, I kind of got a vibe from you guys. And she's like, no. That's just, he flirts with everyone. I mean, truer words have never been spoken. That's how I felt about him. She said they like to joke that he's like a golden retriever. She says, thanks for coming tonight. I've been meaning to ask you something. And, you know, his ears perk up because it's like, oh, yeah, because Conrad just mentioned about the dance. So he automatically expects she's going to ask him to be her date to the dare ball. And she says, does it ever feel weird being the only one that's not drinking? And you could tell that wasn't actually what she was going to ask. But it was almost like, and this is literally just my theory, me in my head. I don't know what's going on in her mind, obviously. It seems like maybe she was going to ask him that, right? But for some reason, she is still holding out for the possibility of going with who she would rather go with instead. That's in my mind, right? Because she clearly was not going to ask him what she just asked him. But she did. She had her reservations. And he says, no, it doesn't bother him. I also can see the disappointment on Cam's face, because it's like, you playing that boy like a fiddle. It's clear that you don't have the feelings that may be growing on him for you. You don't have those, you don't reciprocate those feelings. So at this point, I feel like she kind of need to let this boy go before he get too deep in and he really start catching feelings. That's how I felt, you know. Yeah, let's watch it play out. Says, is that it? And she's like, yeah. Opens her door for her like a perfect gentleman. And they head on off. So the next day, it looks like Jeremiah is drinking his hangover juice, but I don't know. He's making some kind of green juice. I don't know what that is. But she says good morning, and he says, you want some? And she just takes the box of Lucky Charms, I think, and just takes it straight to the head. I love Belly for that, because she's herself. You know, that just further goes to show how she's herself around them. I think she would do the same thing around Conrad as well. But when it comes to Jeremiah, she's really herself. Like, literally, they give best friend energy. That's always been the chemistry I got from them. Says, okay, I take it you and Tay haven't made up yet. And she's like, nope. Talked since last night. He says, here, he gives her a bowl and some milk. He says, when did she leave? And she says, in a couple of hours. She's upstairs packing. Do you want to go on a muffin run? She says, I need to get out of the house. He says, I'm always down for a muffin run. So he says he's going to get a to-go cup for his drink. Does she mind getting the keys from Conrad's room? And she says, sure. So when Belly goes in his room, you know, that camera pans to all of his trophies and his bookcase, his guitar. You know, she's really just looking around, examining his room. Clearly, she hasn't spent much time in there. He's very neat, a very clean boy. Then she goes in his drawer and she sees some cigarettes, which is a full pack in there. It seems that he's given up the cigarettes. Also, she sees some condoms and she's like, ugh. You know, she gets the ick. And then she sees a black little case, a bag that kind of reminds you of like a jewelry bag. And what is it? Yes, she finds the bag of the birthday present that Conrad clearly got her, but did not give her on her birthday. And she turns around just to make sure nobody's looking. Real quick, y'all, I just have to add, Belly looks beautiful here. I love this look. This is probably the best look that I've seen this whole season so far. I love this. I love the top. She's got on like this white midriff top that's got like some lacing at the top, and it's loose, kind of flares at the bottom. And then she's got on her jean cutoffs, but she looks very beautiful, very feminine, dainty, perfect for the summertime. She's got long, beautiful, thick brown hair, and she just looks really pretty, really clean cut. Love it. So being very fucking nosy, she goes, at least he remembered Infinity. Doesn't he know for him I would have traveled endlessly around those curves? So I'm gonna assume she found the keys, because the next scene that we see, she's off on the road with Jeremiah in the car, and she's just looking out the window. Jeremiah says, you good? And she says, I just don't get Conrad this summer. He said, why? Is it because he forgot your birthday? She said, no, it's because he's been acting weird since the first day I got here. He says, yeah, trust me, he's been weird for months. Just forget him. Look, I'm really happy you invited Cam last night. Have you asked him to the dead ball yet? She said, no. He says, look, I know that Steven and I were giving him some shit, but I think he's pretty cool. She cuts him off and says, Nicole really likes Conrad. If he's not into her, that's just messed up. You know what's funny to me right now is that she can clock Nicole and Conrad's tea, but she can't clock her own. Don't you think it's really messed up that you don't really like Cam, but you really got eyes for Conrad, but you don't mind stringing him along? It's the same thing that you think Conrad is doing to Nicole. Pay attention to what's on your own places. Which leads me to my next thought. Taylor was right. You seem to only focus on the story where you're the main character. It's true. And Jeremiah clocks it too. He's like, it's just funny that last night you were all about Cam Cameron and today you can't stop talking about Conrad. Excuse me, he says obsessing over Conrad. Are you so grumpy? Girl, because he tired of you talking about that when he clearly got eyes for you, apparently. But you don't see him like that and he mad about it. She said, why you so grumpy that things not go well with, I think she said, Malik last night? And he laughs. But this is the thing. Why would she think that you're into her when you do what you do with everybody? She saw you with dude last night. So that's the thing. She don't take you serious. Nobody does. So you really can't be mad at her for treating you or talking about Conrad around you or whatever, because she don't think you care. She looks at you like a friend, like a brother. He said, actually, things went really well. Want to hear the details? He says, oh, shut up. Then shoots over to Conrad and the author, Cleveland Castillo. And he says, so what night are you going to torture me with today? And Conrad never even really looks at him. He says, so you're going to tell me I fucked up? I mean, it's more the role of a parent. I'm not one for a reason. I know that's right. Then Conrad looks at him. And so am I a fight? Look, you were supposed to come and help me prep. Is it the end of the world that I made up some shit about selling? Not really. He says, so be real with me. Where were you at? He said, I was with the girl and we lost track of time. Cleveland said, to be 17 again. He says, no, it wasn't like that. Sure, you say so. And Conrad had this big cheesy smile from ear to ear. So cute. He said, just be on time from now on. Conrad says, cool. Hours of practice while he proceeds to do the bow. And he does it. And Conrad says, that's what I call a bow in. Laurel brought Belly and Taylor to the bus station. Taylor's getting ready to go back home. And Taylor's waiting in line by herself. Clearly, her and Belly have not spoken still. Laurel says, you're not going to say goodbye? She says, I don't feel like it. Says she's your best friend and she came out here on your birthday. She loves you. Okay. So she reluctantly gets out the car. So just before she's getting ready to get on the bus, she says, hey. She says, have a safe trip. She says, thanks. She says, okay. And she was just about to walk off. I'm just like, really, girl? Taylor says, and about last night, you'll be happy to know that it'll never happen again.
Steven said that it was a mistake and we never should have gone there, so.
Steven says it was a mistake and we never should have gone there, so, you know, it's whatever. And there's kind of like this awkward silence between the two. If that conversation really took place, you know that was kind of heartbreaking for Taylor. Because like she said yesterday, she's been loving him or wanting him since they were kids, which is the same thing Belly has felt for Conrad. And every time she goes through this loop with Conrad, Taylor's going to be there for her. She should also be here for Taylor because she's clearly masking the way she really feels about that. She's going home sad. Those are just my thoughts immediately in this moment.
I'm just kind of weirded out.
I think Taylor was kind of searching for something to be said here, and Belly had nothing for her at that moment. She's like, I'm not mad. I'm just kind of weirded out. She said she needed a minute to take it all in. And Taylor said, okay, better get going. She says, bye. You know, I'm just going to reserve my thoughts for a little bit later. But yeah, that's how that dynamic went. Tells her like, look, guys may come and go, but a best friend is a lifetime. We have to hold tight to our friendships because you never know what the future will hold. That's why I think Laurel and Conrad see each other. You know what I mean? To me, they're like kindred spirits. They see one another mostly because they're similar. They both know how to hide and mask their pain. And nobody sees them. Nobody really sees it. They see little things, but they don't really see the true pain. And it's in their face, though. You can see it, but nobody ever digs for it. And had Belly been thinking about someone other than herself and her little minuscule problems, she would have seen what her mom was hinting at right there. She would have been paying more attention. So then the next scene, we see Steven. He's scrolling on the ground. Belly walks up with the mama attitude looking at him. Did Taylor leave? She says, why? You want to go make out with her some more? He says he feels bad enough. She said, well, she puts on this whole dramatic performance. And he says, stop being so immature. She snaps out of it. She says she really likes you. He says, yeah, I know. Just like a brother. He says, can you please not tell anyone? And Shayla? He says, yeah, not that you deserve this right now. Seems really into you. I feel like she's used to the kind of guys that were at Nicole's party last night. Yeah, but weren't you a guy at Nicole's party? He says, I mean, she's used to guys who treat her like a queen. What he's hinting at is that she's used to guys with money who come from more than what they come from. Well, they can buy her anything. You know what he's hinting at. He feels less than. He feels inferior when he's with her. Although he sees her as like a trophy and something to aspire to having, he doesn't feel comfortable or confident in himself when he has it. He says, you know, I don't got it like that. Oh, you were feeling insecure and that's why you hooked up with my best friend? He says, yeah, I guess. That's what his mouth says. And yeah, it's true that he was feeling insecure, but he has real feelings for Taylor. He just does not know how or is not comfortable enough in himself to act on that or to say that out loud. He's still a kid, and that takes growth and maturity, which he currently does not possess. So he's doing childlike things. He is dating someone else, despite the fact that he's really not. He likes Shayla, right? And she's fun for the moment, but well, we see how that plays out. So just keep watching if you think I'm wrong. He's no different than any other boy. They will play the field as long as they can, especially at the age they're at. So we see Belly finally eating those pancakes that she skipped out on her birthday, those Mickey Mouse pancakes. Child, and she just took the foil off. I'm like, Dad, did you heat them up at least? So Belly takes out one candle.
I wished for Conrad on every...
And she put it in her stack of pancakes for herself, even though she did it yesterday at Nicole's. She's doing it now for herself, and her inner monologue kicks in. And Belly says, I've wished for Conrad every year on every birthday every shooting star, every penny in a fountain. What if now I have the power to make my wish come true? Is Conrad still my wish? So she makes her wish and she blows out her candle. We don't know if Conrad was still her wish. Yes, we do, y'all. Conrad was clearly still the wish, all right? For those of you who are new here, he's the wish, will forever be the wish. And in the last scene, the camera pans to Laurel and Susanna. They are sitting out on the beach side, and they are enjoying the sunset. Laurel looks at Susanna. She says, I was doing some research last night. Susanna says, for your next book? As I was looking into alternative therapies. Apparently a lot has changed in the last 3 years, and Susanna's face just turns up. It changes completely. She says, have you been speaking to Adam, which is her husband? I know you said you don't want to do chemo. She says, I'm not putting myself through that again. I know how much time I have left. She says, bet, it's okay. And each of these times, y'all, she cuts her off and says, it's okay. Whatever she says, Susanna cuts her off before she can even get it out. She's serious. She's stern about it. She says she's at peace with it. She's going to tell the kids when she gets back to Boston. She just wants one last perfect summer. That's it. And Laurel says, okay. And they just look at each other. And the camera drifts off with them holding hands. And just like she said, just like she told Belly when, Taylor was getting on that bus. And it's just like, girl, care for your friends. Love on your friends. What if she got on that bus to go back home and she didn't make it? There was a car accident and she didn't make it. She says, show love to your friends despite what you're feeling like right now. You don't know what the future holds. How would you feel, So moral of the story, make sure you tell your people you love them because you never know what the future holds. You guys, that wraps up this recap. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please hit the like button for me, please, to help grow this channel. I hope you would subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed my commentary today. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. I will be putting out the very next one just as soon as I can. If you are following along with me, let me know down in the comments. Feel free to leave me a comment, and I hope to see you in the next episode, which is a really good one. You're going to want to stick around for that one. Take care. Happy holidays to all of you. Goodbye.